too far to back away. Be who you are, to change your path, go another way. It's not too late, you can be saved. If you feel depressed with past regrets, the shameful nights, hope to forget can disappear, they can all be washed away by the one who's strong, can right your wrongs, can rid your fears, dry all your tears and change the way you look at this big world. He will take your dark, distorted view, and with his light he will show you truth. And again you see through the eyes of a little girl that there could never be a more beautiful you. Defy the lies, disguises and hoops they make you jump through. 'Cause you were made to fill a purpose that only you could do. So there could never be a more beautiful you. No, there could never be a more beautiful you.
I've been trying to make it alright, going back and forth in my mind, and I gotta find the sunshine. I've been waiting on the sunrise, working real hard for some money. Oh, I'm out of breath from the running. God got me moving kinda funny. Oh, but I know what's coming. Whatever you want, go get it. He's got a plan, go live it. He's making a way every day. He opened the door, go in it. My hands are open, catch blessings, blow wind. Oh, if there's a fight, I ain't even gotta win it. He did it. I know he did it. Prayers going up, blessings coming down. Gonna be more than enough to go around. Like 1, 2, 3, believing is receiving. Oh yeah, said y'all know I believe it. Whatever you want, go get it. He's got a plan, go live it. He's making a way every day. He opened the door, go in it. My hands are open, catch blessings, blow wind. Oh, if there's a fight, I ain't even gotta win it. He did it. I know he did it. Don't turn it around, don't give it up now. Just hold your ground, 'cause he won. There's no turning around, don't give it up now. Just hold your ground, 'cause he won. Whatever you want, go get it. He's got a plan, go live it. He's making a way every day. He opened the door, go in it. My hands are open, catch blessings, blow wind. Oh, if there's a fight, I ain't even gotta win it. He did it. I know he did it. Made a way, made a way. Oh Lord, you've been so good to me. He made a way, made a way. I know he did it. He made a way, made a way. I was no way. He made a way, made a way.
I've been longing for what I thought were the glory days, back when my life felt so easy. Anywhere but here would be a better place. Caught up California dreaming. I know my heart can get carried away on a hindsight holiday, but standing in the middle of the rain right here is so clear. These are my glory days. These are my glory days. Busted and broken, but finally open, wider than an
question was raised as my conscience fell. A silly little lie. It didn't mean much, but it lingers still in the corners of my mind. Still you call me to walk on the edge of this world, to spread my dreams and fly. But the future's so far, my heart is so frail, I think I'd rather stay inside. But you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I've ever known. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me, how you love me. You took more than my strength.
All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. I know that we are going to have more people filtering in as always. I see people coming in the door, but we do want to go ahead and honor our time and get started this morning, both for those of us here as well as our friends on YouTube. So great to have you tuning in this morning as well. This morning, I'm so excited. We have such a special morning planned. And as I have partnered with my friends to make this happen, I'm just more and more excited about what we're going to experience, what we're going to learn, and how God is going to move among us this morning based on what he has for us. And so one of the things that we have talked about throughout this last year. If you've been around women's ministry, if you've been paying attention, kind of one of the themes we've been carrying through the year is let's be women who. Let's be women who, and we have filled in that blank in different ways. We've said, let's be women who sing a little louder when things are not going so great. Let's be women who are grateful. Let's be women who connect together in community. And one of the things that we also want to do is let's be women who serve. And not just women who serve with our hands, which we are doing this morning because as I already see these wonderful collections and donations come in that you all have brought. Let's be women who serve, but let's be women who not just serve with our hands and feet. Do we serve with our feet? Okay, hands and feet. No, some of us do. Okay, all right. But let's be women who are willing to humble ourselves, to learn something new, to expand our perspective of the world in the way that actually allows God to change who we are. And so that's what this morning is all about, and that's what we're going to enter into. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot longer because I want to get my dear friend up on this stage. We have a lot of ground to cover this morning. If you didn't get the memo, for those of you here in the room, we're going to stay in the auditorium the whole time this morning. You'll have a chance to do a little bit of discussion with one another. When that discussion time comes, you can just turn to a few people around you. You don't need to get your whole group together. You don't need to, maneuver things. Just find a few people around you, and that's going to be your discussion group for this morning. But we're going to stay in here the whole time. So I'm going to bring my friend Tara up on stage in just one minute, but I just realized we haven't prayed yet. And so would you bow your heads and pray with me as we usher in this morning together? God, we thank you for this space. We thank you for your goodness and your grace, Lord, in the ways that we've experienced it, even this morning as we opened our eyes, as we breathed deeply and found that we have air in our lungs, that we were able to get out of bed and walk through our homes and get in the car and come to a church, Lord, in community with other women where we can worship you, Lord, and hear one another's stories. Those are such beautiful graces. And so we thank you for that this morning. Lord, I ask that just your presence would be among us, that your hand would be on Tara and Nilab and World Relief, Lord, and all of the stories and the good work they are doing, Lord, as we enter into this space this morning and learn more about how you are moving in this world. Open our minds, open our hearts, Lord. Transform who we are by what we're about to hear. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, this morning I am so excited to introduce to you my dear friend and one of our mission partners from World Relief, Tara Vincent. Tara, I'm going to ask you to start making your way up to the stage. Tara is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at World Relief. She has been on staff there for about 3.5 years. You're going to hear more about what she does and why she's so passionate about it. But Tara just has this passion to connect people's calling and the mission of World Relief. And Tara, the thing I love about this, so Tara and I used to work together at Caris, a nonprofit in the city, and Tara and I have been dear friends for quite some time. We have been on a long journey together, and I remember when Tara was interviewing for the job at World Relief, and the way that God's calling on her life and the way that he worked out that situation where she got the job at World Relief was one of the most beautiful things I have seen. And now the fact that in your role, you are helping other people connect their calling with the mission of World Relief, it's just like the awesome way that God works. And so Tara's going to be sharing a little bit more about that. Tara is a mom to 2 boys, Jackson and Cole. Jackson is in school out in Arizona, and Cole is a senior in high school at Wheaton North. Wheaton North.
Yes.
I get those mixed up. And Tara, this is a fun fact about Tara. She was a chemistry engineering major. And so, right? So what else do you do with your life when you're a chemistry engineering major than go on staff with World Relief, right? It's the way that God works.
Yep.
So with no
That's
further
only
ado,
God.
I am, please welcome Tara Vincent to the stage, and she is going to take over for a little while. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you, Sue Ann. All right. Wow, I'm so excited to be here today. Like Sue Ann said, and like I'm sure many of you, I wake up and I'm like, God, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, this is where you've placed me in life, and it's really, it's just humbling. And so I am still a learner, like many of you. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I know today, but I will also be kind of on this journey with you today. So how many, raise your hand if you've heard of World Relief. Okay, that's pretty good, yeah. Especially like Sue Ann said, I know that Christ Church has been a local partner with us for a while, so that's wonderful. How many of you could, raise your hand if you could say you know what we do? Fair, totally fair. That's why I'm going to start and just give you a really quick overview of who we are so you understand like where we're going today. So World Relief is a global Christian humanitarian organization. We've been around for almost 80 years and have worked in over 100 different countries. And our mission is to empower the local church to serve the most vulnerable in the world. So the most vulnerable are, Matt, if you don't mind putting that picture up, are people that we define. One are that suffering from extreme poverty, and the definition of that is that they live on less than $1.90 a day. So extreme poverty is one area. Another is people that have suffered from disasters. So that could look like an earthquake, but it could also look like a recurring disaster, like a famine or a drought that is cyclical. Also, areas of the world that are living under threat of violence, in violent conditions, think Ukraine, for example, or have just a high level of oppression, especially towards women, is very common throughout the world. And thirdly, think refugees and other people who are displaced from their homes. And oftentimes, people are refugees or displaced because of those other 3 categories. So those are the people that we want to constantly seek out and find. Another way that we say it is that they are the furthest behind on the planet right now. So, and you may be thinking as you look at these 4 areas that these are pretty massive problems in the world today, and they are. They are way too big for Christ Church of Oak Brook to solve, and they're way too big for World Relief to solve. But the good news, and this is what grounds us, is they're not too big for God. And where we stand is that we believe that God created his people, his church, to be the instrument that he uses to extend his transformation in the world. So that's why we are so passionate about uniting the church, the global church, here in the US and around the world to tackle these problems together. So alone, we can't do a lot, but together we really can. And we've seen it, and we're really excited about that, and so excited to share that with you today too. So what we're gonna dial in today is the work that we do with refugees. So we're gonna start, I'd like to introduce you to a refugee story by sharing a video with you.
As our footprints paint a picture of our journey to a new land, we remember why we left, escaping ruin and the horrors of war, while saying goodbye to our people and culture. Our journey began when the explosions arrived at our doorstep, when survival consumed our thoughts. For some of us, our journey began when we could no longer hope for our future. And for others, it began because we were once the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. So we left home. We left our community, the laughter of our friends, the songs of our nation, the teaching of our schools, the taste of our food. We left everything. Hoping for safety and freedom, we traveled hundreds, thousands of miles, often in bleak conditions, just to land on these shores, to set foot on new soil. Our first steps were often met with unwelcoming eyes and cruel words. But we have discovered so much more. We've received warmth, generosity, and grace. You have joined us in caring for our children. Our neighbors have helped us settle into new homes. Our allies have fought alongside us for our rights, our protection, and our voice. This new land has given us her best, and we will give her ours. As much as we have received, we also seek to provide, to strengthen this great nation, creating opportunity for every man, woman, and child. So let us write a new chapter of our story, together, welcoming as we have been welcomed, defending and empowering people from every birthplace and heritage. And may we stand together to pursue peace, justice, and equality for everyone who calls this great land home.
You know, one reason why I love starting with that video, because for me, like the emotions that rise up in me is beauty. Like the story of refugees are hard because they have been through a lot. But yet this reminds me that the humanity and the beauty, how God has created everyone on this earth in his own image, and every person has their own beauty. And so when I listen to this video, I always think about how every person has something that God created them to offer. And so that really shines for me in this video. One of the things that I wanted to share with you too is, since I've mentioned the word refugee a couple times, that we should probably define what that means. And so Matt, if you don't mind going to the next slide here. So a refugee is a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster. And this picture actually was taken about a week and a half ago in Ukraine. And so one thing that World Relief does, like I mentioned that we're a global organization, so we work globally. Like right now, we're on the ground in Western Ukraine and also working in Slovakia and Romania, serving the refugees as they're fleeing with some basic needs that they need. And I saw on your website, I know Christ Church is also responding, which is really wonderful. It's so needed. And so you can see how the war has created this massive humanitarian crisis right now in Ukraine. So World Relief is on the ground there, but we're also working here in that we welcome refugees that come here and help the church come alongside and welcome them as well. And so over the last 2 decades, we have across the U.S. welcomed about 13,000 people from Ukraine. And so one thing we're doing right now is reaching out to those families and connecting with them. They're worried about their loved ones. Are there options for their loved ones to come? The answers to that question is complicated sometimes. And so, but that's what we do here, one of the things that we do here as well. And so when you look at it, you can see how conflict and war in other areas of the world affects us here too. So what you're doing globally with World Relief is a beautiful thing, and we're so grateful that you are part of the open arms, welcoming people who are coming here from other countries. And that's one part of really a global crisis happening. So World Relief has both the here and there approach. And so I like to think of it as that we are treating the symptoms of the problem, which are the people that are coming here because they've had to flee, but we're also fighting for the cure. So not only serving in crisis, but also going deeper to solve these bigger problems with the local church. So that's a lot about World Relief right now, but if we go a little bit deeper into refugees, I also wanted to share with you that some refugees are in refugee camps, and refugees that flee and need to temporarily stay in a refugee camp, temporarily often means 15 to 20 years before they are approved to resettle in another country. And so that was something that I learned when I came on board with World Relief. Like, wow, it's a lifetime. If they have children in a refugee camp, their child could be 20 by the time they leave. So that could be a very long part of their lives. But not all refugees are in camps. Some are living in cities, and they just make their way and find a way to live until they're chosen to resettle in another country. So to help you, and to give you an idea of the scale of this right now. So right now there are, like, how many people, do you know how many people are refugees now, they say, from Ukraine? Yeah, like I heard 2 million, 2.5 million. I heard yesterday over 3 million now. And so this number is massive, right? 3 million people. There's 80 million more people today that have been forced to leave their homes. And so not all of them leave their country. They may be forced to leave their home, but they're still in their country. But about 30 million have left their country. So Ukraine has added another 3 million, but this is a really big number right now. And we're expecting the U.S. to welcome about 12,000 refugees this year yet into our country. And World Relief is expecting to resettle about 800 just in the Chicagoland area. So big numbers, but a big church and a big God, and we're just excited to invite you into this. So I thought we could bring this down to one person, like put more of a human face on what this journey for a refugee is like. So did you get a piece of paper when you walked in today? Awesome. So take out your piece of paper, and what you're going to do is write down 10 things that you would take with you if you had to quickly flee your home and you weren't coming back. So I'm going to give you a minute to quickly write down 10 things. And I guess if you're at home, you can do that too. All right, good. If you're not there yet, keep going. Another 15 seconds. I know it's hard. Are you there? Okay. You've probably heard a quote that has to do with walking a mile in someone else's shoes. Turns out there's lots of versions to that quote, but I found a version that I thought paints a real good picture of what we're going to do right now. And this quote says, "Walking a mile in someone else's shoes isn't so much about the walk or the shoes. It's being able to think like they think, feel like they feel, and understand why they are, who they are, and where they are. Every step is about empathy." So, in order for us to walk a mile in a refugee's shoes, I'm going to tell you a story. And so I'm going to need your participation with the story, and that's what your list is for. So the story I'm going to tell you is going to be represented by a woman named Judith, but the story I'm sharing with you is really actually parts of several people's story. Some people have multiple parts of her story happen to them, but the things that I'm sharing in this story are actually common things that do happen to refugees as we meet them when they arrive. So Judith is from Congo, and this is a country in East Africa. And, hold on, I'm gonna take a, okay. So Judith got up one morning, and she started her day, a normal day, with her husband, with her kids, and her husband got up, and he left, and he went into the village. Now, when he got there, some people in the village came up to him and started questioning him about his wife, because Judith is like family line is from two different tribes in Congo, and one of the tribes in their village was warring with the other, which is actually very common in Congo. This has been happening for decades. So the people approach her husband and tell him that they want him to kill his wife. And when he refused, they killed him. A friend of Judith saw this unraveling, and she ran ahead to Judith's house and told Judith what had happened and gave her a warning. And so Judith grabbed her 10 things and she left her home. So now Judith had 4 kids, and they took off and they ran into the bush. Now, the bush is the wilderness. So for her in Congo, that meant the forest. But in other countries, it could be the desert. It could be a jungle. But for her, it was the forest. And so as she was running through the forest with her kids, eventually she encountered a militant group along the way. And the militant group gave her a choice. They said that you can either have all your children be killed or be raped. And so being a mom, this is a horrible choice to make. And so she was raped. So now she has had her husband taken away from her, her home taken away from her, and now she's lost another piece of her. She's lost her dignity, and she's lost her personal safety. And so what I'm going to have you do is take a look at your list, and whatever is number 3 on your list, cross it out. So Judith continued on her way, and she's heading towards Kenya because she knows that there's a refugee camp in Kenya. And so she's on her way there. And so while she's on her way there, she encounters a conflict, which is also common in Congo because there's a lot of active conflict continuing there today. So she encounters a conflict and she gets wounded herself in this conflict. So take your piece of paper and I'd like you to exchange it with someone near you. Now you should have somebody else's list in front of you. You are going to cross one thing off of this person's list, and you choose what that thing is that you're crossing off. Now, she's continuing to run, and running often at night because that's the safest time to travel. And so because she's running in the night and because she's exhausted, it's most likely been weeks and weeks that she's been traveling. She lost another thing on her list. So exchange your paper again with somebody else. Don't give it back to the original person, but now somebody new. You cross off another thing off this person's list. So Judith arrived at this refugee camp in Kenya. And so when she got there, she was assigned a tent. She was given her food rations. One of the first things that happens is also you get a medical evaluation. So she had her medical evaluation, and that's where she discovered that she was pregnant and had HIV from that very first night on her journey. And so take a look at your list. And if there's a number 8 on that list, I just heard someone say, I never got 10 on my list. If there's an 8 on that list, cross it off. And if there isn't 8, I would just cross off the last one that they put there. Yeah, so as a refugee, you don't have a lot of control over your life. You don't have control over where you get resettled. You don't have control over when you get resettled. And so you have not only experiencing so much loss already in your life, but even knowing that you're going, let's say, to a country like the US is another loss. You're leaving the loss of your country, your culture, your food, even the community that you've created perhaps over the last 2 decades living in the refugee camp. And oftentimes people can't even take everything that they have in a refugee camp, like clothes that they may have accumulated over the years. None of that is under your control. So give your list back to the original person. Hopefully you can find that original person whose list it is. Does everybody have a piece of paper? Does anybody have 2 pieces of paper? So you should have your own list now in your hand. And you're getting ready to go to the US. If you have a necklace on today, I'm going to ask you to cross off number 8 on your list. Or number 9, number 9. If you don't have a number 9 on your list, cross off the next highest thing on your list. And if you were wearing anything white today, name tag doesn't count. But if you're wearing something white, then take your list and rip it up. So what you have left on your paper is what you will be bringing to the US. Sometimes you're bringing nothing but yourself. So this is what many refugees are experiencing when they arrive here. And so we're going to give you a few minutes to talk about this journey that you were just on with people around you. And so before we put the question up, Matt, what you can do is turn to maybe get in groups of 3, maybe 4 people around you. So get in your groups first. All right, Matt, we're ready for the question. Can you bump it so just the first question? Oh, the animation's not on? Okay. Just focus on the first question, which is, what did that feel like? That journey that you were just a part of. Okay, just the first question. We're going to give you 5 minutes to share with each other about that question. All right, so go. Okay, finish your final thought, who's ever speaking. Would someone volunteer to share like a theme, something that your group, what did you hear in your group from this question? Yeah?
My friend Jill said traumatized, and I thought that was a very good word.
And so you were feeling a little bit of that traumatized experience. Yeah, panic. Anyone else feel those things? Yeah. I remember when I did this exercise for the first time, I had listed my kids out. And the very first thing I had crossed off was one of my kids. And I got like a sick feeling in my stomach. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. What else? How about one more? Yeah. Yeah. Overwhelmed because it's unimaginable, isn't it? All right, I said 2, but how about one more? Yeah, I know. It's also kind of overwhelming, isn't it, that we're here and we didn't even choose to be born here, but we are, and that's not we haven't gone through that. So, all right, we've got another question for you. Matt, the next question, please. And that is, well, look it up. Let's see, what is the next question? That's okay. Is it there? All right. So, having heard the story, what would you change what's on your list? So turn to that same group and talk about this question.
Will you just repeat what they say so everyone
So everyone can hear it? Yeah, thanks. One more minute. All right, it sounds like you're ready. So who will volunteer? What are some of the things that you heard that your group would change on their list? Kelly?
I said I might be inclined to take a weapon, and I'm not a fighter, but I like, when your kids' lives are at stake, like, that wasn't on my list.
Wow. So this group over here said they were talking about they would take a weapon maybe, which is a surprising choice. Oh, her group is like, Kelly said that. Yeah, that you hadn't thought about that before, but especially if you're fleeing alone with your kids, this might be something that you were forced to do, that you, like Kelly said, I would have never, I've never touched a weapon before, but this is a different situation. Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that. What else? Yes. Okay. Toiletries is her, yeah, imagine this journey being weeks and months and you just left without anything like that. Yeah. I know, we can't even imagine what it's like to live without a basic necessity, like toothpaste or something like that for weeks. So, yeah, that's, thank you for that. Yes? Oh, yeah. So this group was thinking, as women, right now, personal items, like what happens if I don't have that? Another very real situation that a lot of women are in around the world and in refugee camps too. So, yeah, thanks for bringing them up. I know it gets really real when you start thinking, well, how about one more? Yes, in the back? Yeah, medicine, especially if you have a prescription, something that you're relying on every day, or just other things if you get sick along the way and then you don't have anything to fall back on. So, yeah, these real basic human needs are starting to really rise to the top, aren't they? So we've got one more question for you today. Thank you for that. That is, how does hearing a story and experiencing loss maybe change the way that you might interact with someone who's gone through this? So take a few minutes and talk with your group again. How might it change the way you talk to someone who has been through this? All right, about 30 more seconds. Matt, would you mind putting the slide back up with the people that are walking, the definition? Back up, thanks. All right, ladies. Would love to hear what ideas did you have? How would that change the way you interacted with someone? What came to your mind? Wow, I wish you had the mic for that one. That was really good. Yeah, she said that they would want to listen more and not assume that they know what the other person needs, and that just be more willing to receive their story and hear their experience. I hope I captured that okay. Yeah, thank you. By the way, I just want to say that I really like that you said that, not assume what they need, because I think that's something that, especially in our culture that has more things that we need, it's easier for us to maybe assume how we could fix someone else's situation, or we know what they need. And so that's a really good posture to start with. All right, what else? Yes? Yes, yes. So they said that kind of hitting the pause button on the assumption that they are so grateful to be in the U.S., like this is like, now they're happy because they're here. And so although they may be very grateful to have safety, they have experienced so much loss. And yes, so showing empathy towards the loss. Yeah, such a human need. Thank you.
I actually didn't say it tonight, but I'm just thinking about the need for like ongoing support. That what you described in that story is a lifetime of trauma
Yeah.
and loss and all of that. And again, not just because you're here and maybe even, got your citizenship or whatever, doesn't erase all of that.
Yeah.
And that's such a long journey that
Yeah.
needs to be walked alongside and supported.
Yeah, thank you. She's talking about really just the ongoing long-term support that might be needed for this person to become whole again after so much loss and so much trauma. And so one of the things, like when we at World Relief, when we welcome, we facilitate the the first few days, the first few months of a person's journey when they get here, setting up their apartment, getting them in an English class, helping them find their first job. And so lots of things that they need to function here, but that lifelong walk of healing and, just really processing the pain in their life is what we need community for. And really, our loss isn't the same, but I think that's something that we can offer each other. That kind of loving community and like walking through life together and healing. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Lots of really good ideas. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you just for hanging in for this exercise, because I know it's not an easy one to walk through, but I hope valuable for you to take with you and just a piece of your journey too, and seeing others. So what we're excited to offer you today is Sue Ann and I get to introduce you to someone who was a refugee. She has been in the U.S. now for over 20 years. She was born in Afghanistan, but now I get the amazing privilege to work with her. I'm just starting to get to know her, and so she's on staff at World Relief. Her name is Nilab Malik. Come on up. She's going to come up here and sit with Sue Ann. Nilab came on staff at World Relief in October, and she helped us respond to the Afghanistan crisis that happened, that was really triggered last August. I'm sure you remembered that. And so she came on board. She serves our Afghans that have come here after evacuating Kabul. And so she serves a large number of families. And so we're so grateful that she is now using her gifts to really care for these people. So her title is Resettlement Associate. It sounds so official, but yeah, she really is the point person, the face that is in constant care of these families. So please welcome, Nilab.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Glad to be here. It's my honor to be here and talk about my journey and everything. Thank you.
Nilab, we are so glad that you are here. And Tara, you just did an amazing job leading us through everything you just led us through. And now, Nilab, the fact that you're here as a living example and have the courage to share your story is such a gift to us this morning. So I can't thank you enough for being here. And when Tara told me, you've actually only done this one other time. This is your second time, and I can tell already that you're like a pro at this. And so I think it's amazing that you're here. So share a little bit more. I know Tara shared a little bit about your position at World Relief, but share a little bit more about what that means and what you do at World Relief.
So I am a resettlement associate, or sometimes we're called case managers. I was hired in October, and we help resettle Afghan evacuees who come to the U.S. from various bases. We help them with securing housing for them, and then we visit them the next day to give some amount of money for them so they can buy food and stuff until their public aid or other governmental help starts. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and your journey has come full circle with what you do now and what your journey has been, because you actually grew up in Afghanistan. And so can you share a little bit more about what that was like growing up in Afghanistan, and specifically what it was like to be a young female growing up in Afghanistan?
Yeah, so that was many, many years ago. And as far as I remember, growing up in Afghanistan, Afghanistan used to be a very amazing country, just like U.S. Very free. Equality was a thing between men and women. Everything was great. And then when the war started to happen, things changed dramatically. Women had to stay home. Girls had to stay home, no schooling, no job. Everybody was living off of fear. My family personally, we lived off of a fear, because when you're a girl or a young adult and you live in Afghanistan, you're not safe. When the war started, you were not safe. Taliban will go around, come to your houses, no question asked. See a beautiful young woman, here's the money. I want to marry your daughter. No, sir, you can't. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to marry your daughter either way. So you take the money, or I will just kill you. So then you have no saying, what were you doing in that situation? So those are the fears that I and my family and millions of other families lived in Afghanistan. And then not being able to go to school. Being a young adult, I love to continue my education. I was able to go only first year of school, and then that's it. I was homeschooled by my mom. And I learned a little bit here and there, but it's not the same when you're actually going to school, interacting with your classmates and the teacher and all that. So your dreams shatter. You're like, why is this happening to me? So it was hard. It was really hard to live in a situation like that, where you can't go to school, you can't even leave the house and go outside and play just like a normal kid with your friends, because you would never know somebody's gonna come and just take you. Like you're just a bird in a cage inside the house all the time. And then on top of that, not only that, it's when are you gonna die? When the angel of death is gonna come and take you? All these fears you're living off of, and you're like, when is this gonna end? So that's the kind of life I have lived. I've seen people being killed in front of my eyes, being a young adult. It's hard.
Nilab, you and your family, you were just 15 years old when you came to the United States. So when you think about what she just shared, and she's experiencing this as an adolescent, as a 13-year-old, I mean, that's so hard to get my mind wrapped around. But you came to the United States when you were about 15 years old. Talk about the circumstances leading up to that, and what brought you and your family here to the United States.
So we flew Afghanistan and we went to Pakistan, and we lived there for a year. Now it was just.
Can you share who we is?
Sorry, my mom, my sister, my brother, and myself. My dad was taken away by Taliban, so I didn't have a dad. And it was hard. So we flew away in the middle of the night. We snuck out and we went to Pakistan. Now, you don't know anybody in Pakistan. What are you going to do? So we just went in a refugee camp of Pakistan. And now your life might be saved a little bit, but then you're out of danger. But then how are you going to find food? Who's going to earn? Who's going to bring the income? My mom, having 3 young kids, is she going to stay home, take care of us, or is she going to go outside and work? Now, again, in Pakistan, as far as I know, if you don't have a higher education, if you haven't received your education from Pakistan, it's not really easy for you to find, to be able to work, to get a job. So then what my mom did is, like, she was doing, she became a seamstress. She was tailoring to earn some income, and she did have a beauty parlor too, so I got that from that.
Makeup artist.
So yeah, that's what she was doing to earn income. Because the schooling was so expensive, we couldn't afford it, so I still couldn't go to school. And then there's a U.S. embassy in Peshawar, Pakistan, that we heard of. And when you go through so much in life, it's like you're a child, you want a candy, you want cake so bad, and it's not given to you. All of a sudden, you see a hope. Oh my God, I'm gonna be able to eat that candy and that icing on the cake. Your world changes. So when we heard about the U.S. Embassy, we're like, oh my goodness, is it gonna happen? Am I gonna be able to go to America? Like, no, not to me. That can't happen to a person like me. So we did apply, and it was amazing. Thankfully, we got accepted 4 different countries, US, Canada, Australia, and England. So our case manager was American, and she asked us, where you want to go? I was like, I've never been to any of these countries before, so I don't know. She said, well, I am your case manager. I'm from America, so I'm going to send you to my country. Now, when you're in Afghanistan or Pakistan, when you can't afford to migrate back and forth, whether it's for business or studying stuff to a foreign country, and then you find out that, oh my goodness, you're just gonna go to America or to any country, it's like a dream come true. I was so excited. I remember when I left the embassy, I asked my mom, I was like, can I please jump up and down and I just want to dance on the street right now. It was amazing. And then happened 9/11. And then what happens is you're way high in the sky, cloud 9, and you're just thrown back on the ground. I'm like, no, okay, that's it. This is called dream shattered. Again, why me? Why does it happen to me all the time? But then thankfully, when God is great and you put your trust in him, you know that he got your back. Then we got called and said, you guys are still going. I was like, oh my goodness, with all this 9/11 thing happening, we're still going. Americans are great. So then we came here.
Yeah, and you came, you were 15 years old, you did not speak English. I don't think your family spoke English. When we did that exercise, I know that was very moving for you because you said you had a backpack. That was what she had. That's when she left her home. And you came here after 9/11 as an Afghan refugee, and you went to high school, not speaking English. I just can't even imagine what that was like for two reasons. One, the fear of the American people from people coming from Afghanistan during that time was high, and I imagine that did not play well among mature high school students. And you also had the logistical challenges of figuring out everything new about your life. What was that like?
It was definitely not a good experience. It definitely scarred me. Anytime I think back, it hurts a little bit because I was the first Afghan girl in my high school, and I entered the classroom. I saw everybody was sitting away from me, everybody in one corner. My spot was in one corner. And, being a young adult, you're like, okay, maybe it's because I'm different. Maybe they don't know me. Nobody would talk to me. And knowing, I didn't know any English. I only knew a few words here and there. But later on, when they got to know me and I became friends with them, then they told me, they said, one of the ESL teacher came to each classes and said, okay, guys, just want to let you know that there's a girl coming from Afghanistan. She didn't even finish her sentence. Everybody was like, no, she shouldn't be here. We need to send her back. She's terrorist. She did this and that. So then they were like, yeah, when we saw you, we didn't like you. We didn't want to talk to you. You don't deserve here. You don't deserve to be in the U.S. But then when they got to know me, they're like, wow, you are different. I've actually been through a lot of discriminations when I was in high school, many, many times. There was one time in my math class, I was sitting just doing my own work on the computer, and then this girl comes to me, taps on my shoulder. I turn around and was like, yes. She's like, you're from Afghanistan? I'm like, yes, I am. And then she's like, you're the terrorist, right? I'm like, no, I'm not. Being facing stereotypes like that, it hurts you. I was like, why do you think that I'm the terrorist? Well, Osama bin Laden, I'm like, Osama bin Laden is not even from Afghanistan. So, no, I'm not a terrorist. I'm not the one who literally went and, bombarded the buildings and all that. I'm not. So please don't associate me with those terrorists. And I feel like every time in high school, I had to fight. I had to prove myself to everyone that I'm not. So those are the challenges. And then the challenges of not knowing English. I literally was getting books from high school, from the library, and I was reading books. And then to best improve my English, I was using an English dictionary. Took many, many ESL classes. I worked really hard because going through so much hardship in life, you realize that at the end of the tunnel, there's a light waiting for you. So that's the hope that keeps you going.
Nilab, I think one of the beautiful things about your story, the Bible tells us that God creates beauty from ashes. And I'm just listening to your story thinking, looking at you sit here today, that he has created something beautiful from your ashes. And I just want you to fast forward a little bit, knowing all that you have been through. You are now college educated. You are married. You have children. You are actually doing a job that is helping people. that were in the exact same situation that you were in. Share a little bit about just how you've gotten to where you're at today and what brings you joy about what you do.
So I got my going through so much, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna major in biology and I minor in chemistry.
I mean, because why not?
It came with a lot of challenges, I'm not gonna lie. I struggled a lot. You would not believe me that when I was in dorm, I did not want a roommate with someone else because I wanted just one room to myself so I can study. I would study up until 2 in the morning. I had no social life, and then I would get up at 5 in the morning, go to my classes. Same thing with high school. Believe it or not, I was all A student. I got a C one time in one of my math class, and I was hurt. I was like, Nilab, why? So my math teacher came to me. He's like, Nilab, it's okay. It's all right. You're fine. C's still good. But I was so hard on myself. I still am.
It puts our children going through online learning, like complaining about that, like to shame.
So I graduated college, Central Washington University in Ellensburg, Washington, and but why going a little bit backwards, when I was in high school, I was working 3 jobs actually to support my family, and then when I would come home after my work around 9-10 o'clock at night, that's when I had time to do my homework. So I would lay on the floor on my stomach and try to do homework, but then I would fall asleep. My mom would come and tell me, hey, you need to go to bed. So then after I finished high school and finished college, then I was still working 2 jobs, including my weekend, so I can pay my loan back. And then after that, God had other plans for me. I wanted to actually apply for optometry, but then I got married. I met my amazing husband, and God is amazing, and now we have 2 beautiful children. And then I found this job. I love what I do because I have been in all these refugees' shoes. I know what they've gone through. I mean, our experiences might not be the same. The event might not be the same. But the thought process, this pain and sorrow, it's all relevant.
Yeah. Share a little bit about then, now in your job, when Afghan refugees come here and you are trying to place them. And Tara, feel free to jump into this too. What does that look like? What happens in that process?
So when the family arrive, the evacuees, we get like maybe about few days in advance notice that so-and-so family is going to be coming, and we resettle them either and they go to DuPage or depending on where they are put. So then because we don't, most of the time, we don't have enough time to secure housing for them ahead of time. So then we place them at the hotel, or if they have some friends, they can stay with them temporarily until we secure housing. So then from there, then on, the process starts. So we look for housing, and then in the meantime, we try to apply for their public aid so they can get cash and food and all that benefit as well, Medicaid and all too. And then we visit them the next day to give them an amount of cash so they can have something to depend on while the help starts. So that's pretty much what we do. And then once this housing is secure, then we help them move. The first night, we do actually prepare a culturally appropriate meal for them, because it's something a little small, something to make them think that, hey, you know, even though you're in a foreign country, you can still have food of the same country that you left behind, so you don't feel completely like, oh my gosh, everything is behind.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to I was not used to American food. My first time I tried French fries, I was like, completely different than what I call a French fries. It was a McDonald's French fries. And then forget about the fact that one of my really best friend, we're still best friends in high school. She helped me a lot in high school. She was the only one who actually did not have any stereotyping feelings towards me. She accepted me from day one. She bought me a hamburger. I took one bite. I handed it back to her. So it took a lot for me to actually like American food. Now I just love it. My favorite thing is sushi. I can sushi it out all day.
I love it. Well, that's such great perspective because you have the emotional trauma, you have everything that we walked through this morning about, all of your discrimination and the experiences against you, and then you have all the little things, the everyday things, the practical things of this isn't even the food I'm used to eating. I mean, just the gamut of those things and all that refugees walk through. Thanks for bringing just some good humor and some perspective to that as well. So Neela, this is my last question for you this morning. Yesterday when we talked a little bit about why you want to share your story, why it's important for you to take time from your workday today to be here in our setting and share your story. Why is that so important to you? What do we need to know?
There are multiple reasons. The main thing I want to share my story with all you guys here today is because I want to let you guys know that although I am from a different country, a lot of these Afghans are from different country, we're still human beings. We might be from different religion, different background, different culture. We're still human being. We all look alike. Yeah, the skin color is different, but we all look alike. Everybody has 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 limbs, or 4 limbs. I do the same thing, but I don't want any other Afghan coming here going through what I went through. Because when I say it scars you for life, it scars you for life. Yeah, you just suppress it. You don't want to talk about it very much, but it affects you in the long run. So I would like you guys to please be a little bit empathize, and yeah, you don't, might not have gone through what they've gone through, but to be empathizing with them, and then being nice to them, and make them feel like they're still human being. And it's okay to be from different culture, different background, different religion. We're still human being. That's all I want.
That's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for using your story and your gifts to make that change for us and to just open our eyes in so many ways. You are a courageous and beautiful woman, and so thank you for being here with us. Can we tell Neela how much we appreciate her? Thank you so much. Well, we just have a few minutes left. We're going to wrap up our time together here in a minute. But I don't know about you, but this whole morning I hear these stories and everything that Tara led us through, and I think, okay, what can I do? You guys have already helped today by bringing these kits here, and Tara's going to talk about those in just a minute as we close our time, and Kelly's going to come up. But first, I just wanted to take a look at one more video. A story of a woman that I think you're going to resonate with as you sit here today. So Matt, can you go ahead and play that video?
How can you bring about justice with a small group of families and children who are just trying to show God's love? A group of women in our neighborhood were talking about how can we find ways to serve in a meaningful way with our children. And we all had a growing heart, not only for children, but for refugee families. And shortly after that meeting in my living room, the Love Your Neighbor Club was formed. The mission of the Love Your Neighbor Club is to serve children in our community and refugee families with our children alongside of us. About a year ago, I got a phone call from our church, and there was a call out for finding a woman to come alongside another woman who was a resettled refugee. Her had 3 children, and her husband had recently died in a car accident. And since I had gotten the phone call from our church, God was nudging me and saying, Ellie, this could be you. This could be you. I said, okay, it'll be me. She and I were able to visit, and she started crying. And I thought, gosh, I don't know how I would be able to keep it together. She's just lost her best friend, her husband. She's come to this country And she's got 3 kids that are my kids' ages. So a friendship sparked in all of that, in this shared humanity. Because on paper, she and I, we were living identical lives. Elevate last year was doing Peter Pan and reached out to her and said, would you and your kids like to meet up with me and my kids and we'll go see this play together? And she said, we've never been to a play. They came up to Kesslinger and the kids got to meet each other and they lined up perfectly in age. The kids are chatting and we take our seats and all of a sudden she gets really quiet.
On my computer. Kelly, never mind. Peter, will you run to my office and grab my charger, please? Thank you.
Do you want to come back?
All right, we'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back to this in a minute. Actually, nothing like killing a moment. All right, we'll come back to that video, or I can send it out to the leaders so we have access to that, just as another reminder of how we can help and what we can do. But I'm going to invite Kelly Shield to the stage and explain a little bit more with Tara on why did anyone think it was strange, the items that we asked you to collect for these? Me too. And I still don't know why we collected those items. So I'm going to sit back and learn like the rest of you on why in the world these are the items that go on a first day to work kit.
All right, so that's the question I'm going to answer first, yes. And so, you'll get to watch the video later too. I think the bottom line is that reaching out to someone and engaging with them is a mutually transforming experience. It's not just about us serving somebody else, but what we find is that God changes us in the process too. So I love Ellie's story because she talks about her transformation. So I can't wait for you to hear the end of that. The reason why the first day of work kits are so impactfful is because when a refugee comes to us, they have a lot of changes that they're like working through very quickly. And you heard Nilab, like some of the things they have to adapt to right away. And so they need to go through, like we provide a job readiness class to help them adapt to what is it like to work in American culture. What is it like to, start learning English and then start learning the systems that are here, like where's the grocery store? How do I navigate a grocery store? How do I open a bank account? How do I work with our kids' school? So all these things are new and different and happening really fast. A lot of the refugees that come, they have never seen like a manufacturing environment, and that's often the first job type setting that they can qualify for because they have to get a job within 90 days. So, and that environment is it's very unusual for them and very fast-paced. So for them to have items like water bottles to keep them hydrated, the lunchbox so they can be nourished when they're at work, a planner to help them remember what are the days that they're working, especially on rotating shifts, things like deodorant so they practice good hygiene at their new jobs. What item did and to keep their items secure, they need the padlock for the locker. So since offering these things for them to receive and know that somebody cares enough about them to think about these small things that is making their transition just a little bit easier is really, really a big deal. So all of these kits will go to someone who is starting their very first job within the next couple months. So thank you so much for that. Did you want to add something, Kelly, about the kits before we close?
So.
Okay.
I think so.
Yes.
So thank you to everyone who brought these. This is a complete kit. There's several of those. If you didn't have a chance to bring things. I had several people say, Amazon hasn't delivered the things yet. We will still collect those for the next couple of weeks. You can bring them to the well. You can bring them and drop them off at the office. We have a spot across from your office, Sue Ann, that we're collecting things. But we're going to send these with Tara today, and everything
Thank
that's
you.
come. So anyway, you have a chance. Sue Ann asked me just to introduce myself. I'm Kelly Scheel. I've met many of you. I just started on staff in January as our domestic missions coordinator. And what that means is I get to work with Tara and all of the amazing organization that Christ Church partners with. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I hear stories like this, I'm like, I want to be a part of that. Right? And so one of my jobs is to help engage our church. So I'm expecting lots of calls or emails to say, I want to be a part of what's going on at World Relief. And so then we will connect you to Tara and to World Relief
team,
in
yeah.
ways that we can volunteer. Do you want me to close out in prayer?
Yeah,
or-
I just, can we please say thank you to Tara and Nilab again, especially for just your amazing work and courage today. I know we didn't give you all that much to think about today, so, but on the way out, Nan's gonna have, there's some cards in the back. Nan is gonna be having these. If you wanna learn a little bit more, there's some ways that you can support World Relief, as well as Kelly and Tara and Nilab are gonna be up here if you just have questions or even just wanna come up and say thank you for their good work today. Kelly, can I ask you to close us in prayer this morning?
I'd love to. God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for women who are care enough to learn. And I pray that we are all learners. And thank you so much for the mission of World Relief and what they are doing to relieve suffering in our world. Thank you for Tara, who walked us through a really powerful exercise that I hope inspires all of us to be more empathetic and to be better listeners. And thank you so much for Nilab and just her transparency and sharing her story, and also just the impact she is having to so many people and refugees in our community. God, thank you that you are bigger than any issue in our world. We think of Ukraine, we think of all of the suffering, and we know, God, that you are bigger than any one of us, but help us to be instruments of peace. Be it a kind word. We heard the story of Nilab and her friend that helped her. Just one person who made a difference. So help us to be one and to love all, just like you taught us to love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Let me turn this off.
Such a fabulous job, my
Sometimes I wonder, is he faithful? Does he see me in my trouble? Does he understand? Sometimes I question if he's able. Can he rescue? Can he save me again and again? But when I look back, did he move every mountain? Did he part every sea? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Oh, did he defeat the darkness? Did he deliver me? Yes, he did. So yes, he can. Oh, yes, he did. So yes, he can. 'Cause sometimes those voices try to tell me I'm forgotten.